Furina. We all know her, and even if you don't love her, you can at least sympathize with her. I can't say much groundbreaking stuff about her story in the Archon quest, since most of that has already been said, but her story is amazing. After you finish the 4.2 Archon quest, you can't help but mentally re-examine all the interactions you've had with her thus far, and realize everything had a second layer. It's like watching a movie as a little kid, then watching it again years later, and picking up on all the subtleties that once flew straight over your head. After playing through Masquerade of the Guilty, I fell absolutely in love with Furina's character. And I, like many of the people I've talked to about this, ran straight into doing her story quest to see how she'd get her vision. And my God, was it a disappointment. Instead of a story where we see Furina get proper closure and celebration for her 500 years of suffering, we see her trauma magically washed away through poorly disguised exposure therapy. Furina is amazing, but this quest ruined the end for me. So, I asked the question, can it be fixed? Before I get in, quick reminder to drop a subscribe and like to boost my algorithm. Every bit of support is appreciated. First of all, I want to find what is wrong. Obviously a lot, but the biggest one is the trivialization of her trauma. At the beginning of her story quest, the Traveler and Paimon go to ask Furina to play a part in a musical. Furina declines, saying this:
My capabilities, but given the present circumstances, I'm afraid I must regretfully decline your casting request.
How come? It sounds like this would be a breeze for you.
True, but I have made a decision to retire from the stage. Although I am no longer required to play the role of the Hydro Archon, the time I spent inhabiting that character has left an indelible mark on me.
This makes clear sense. Furina has spent 500 years pretending to be someone else. For anyone out there who has pretended to be someone they're not for any amount of time, you can relate to how alienating this feels. You begin to disassociate and lose your sense of individuality, something that, as humans, we have a given right to. Furina has made the choice to stop pretending. She has been playing a role for so long that she needs time outside of that to properly recombobulate and find her own identity. And then Paimon says something so insensitive. It blows my mind as to how it got added in.
Paimon can understand, but this is just a one-off part to fill in for someone who's sick. Surely that's okay.
What the hell? This can be done well, sure, where the character like Paimon learns to respect Furina's boundaries, but not in this quest. In this quest, Paimon is presented as being in the right for pushing Furina's boundaries. Furina has drawn a boundary, and Paimon is just whoop-de-doo. Let me just over that cavernously carved line. And that brings me to my next, smaller point. The Traveler and Paimon suck in this story quest. The Traveler is supposed to be a self-insert character, and yet in this one, they feel like a completely separate character. Sure, they have their moments to be separate from the player, but in this case, we get two terrible dialogue options that go against what the majority of people want to say. Just look at any content creator's reaction to this. Most of them also despise how we're portrayed and just want to give Furina a big hug. Another gripe I've seen a lot of people have is the lack of closure we get. Furina's story is that of someone who sacrificed their life for their nation, but she's just living here. Again, when we meet her, she also talks about her new life, and she clearly sounds depressed. This is literally me, having no idea how to cook and just making instant ramen in various flavors for every meal.
Not at all. As long as you have different kinds of sauces in, you can have macaroni and tomato sauce one week, macaroni and bolognese the next.
Side note, huge praise for Furina's Va Amberly Connors during this scene. Despite Genshin's lack of facial expressions, she did such a good job voicing Furina's depression in this scene. Anyway, even if the polysmermonia might make Furina feel uncomfortable and bring up some past traumas, she doesn't have to live in the borderline shit shack she's in now. Even in secret, Noviette should have arranged something better for her. She deserves, at worst, royalty treatment until the end of her days. Not to mention the people of Fontaine probably still hate her, still seeing her as a selfish prick who pretended to be their Archon, then skipped away scot-free. If Noviette, the guy who heard from the mastermind, had told Fontaine's citizens something, then they would likely mass and forgive Furina. Same way the Genshin player base has. Furina gets a vision, sure, but so has literally every single playable character. That's not closure, nor is it a fitting reward. So these are the main problems I see. There are obviously more, and I'm down to discuss in the comments, but I'll be focusing on fixing how they trivialize her trauma. This is the biggest one. The best fix I could think of without overhauling the whole quest is recontextualizing the situation. Frame it not as her boundaries being broken, but as her lacking the courage to pick up her method of expression. We've all had those things we are too scared to do, so scared we are blinded from the joy those things could bring. Furina used to act in plays during her time as the Archon. Maybe those could be brought up. Maybe, during those plays, she genuinely enjoyed her acting. But now, after the events of Masquerade of the Guilty, she is consumed by her fear of losing herself to the act again. The quest could focus on breaking down the act for the real Furina, and then her learning that she can still express herself through acting. She could have a whole dilemma about how she used to enjoy it during her Archon role, then worry that it was only her Archon role that made her like it, then come to realize how they were one of the few times she truly felt like she could be herself, just enjoying her passion. Her stand on the stage could also double as a moment of empowerment. Furina facing the people of Fontaine for the first time after lying to them for 500 years, finally with her real self on display for them. With the support of the people and a better understanding of herself, Furina could grow and take her first steps in developing her own identity. Anyway, that's most of what I had to say on this topic. It's a shorter one since I've been busy recently working with my editor and working on a story for a Dungeons & Dragons campaign I DM, but I had a good time writing it. I'll reply to all comments looking to discuss because I didn't get as much out as I wanted. Discussion is always the best parts of videos like these, and I can't wait to see your thoughts. Anyway, I won't keep you anymore. Have a good day, night, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are, and hope to see you in the next one.